Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Th- Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope I'm audible. Just a check. Right. Thank you. Uh, so today, I'm here to give a lecture on, how we can develop a resilient and cybersecurity program on the Gen AI, right? In the new age of Gen AI, how is it, it is coming along securely that we can build. We have seen that the Gen AI has been a rapid rise within. Okay, all right. It's one of the fastest growing technology that we are seen in our world, and then we have been using the Gen AI tools that's been embedded into the business core businesses that we are seeing, and the speed with which these uh, transition from a noise technology to a necessity technology is being enormous, right? It is unprecedented. So in this world, we also see that there are few challenges in the cybersecurity side, and then infrastructure side, the technology, and also the compliance, and as an organization, we also have a lot of challenges, right? So how do we look at the cybersecurity challenge? It is basically the hyper personalized phishing attacks that we see, and then deep fakes. Why I say hyper personalized is, you will have lot of perfect grammar, and then it comes with a lot of localized information, and that basically makes it very hard for the defending teams, right? And because of this, it bypasses all the technology that has been put in place for preventing phishing attacks, and also it expands the blast radius for when it comes in contact with the users, and also it actually amplifies the attacks, right? When I say amplifies the attack, we have seen the 0-day vulnerabilities that has been compromised within a short duration, right? So it is basically developing a lot of Gen AI tools are being used to come up with a lot of technology, vulnerability penetration activities, so that it can be penetrated easily, and then the attackers can get infiltrated into their into your ecosystem, and then look at the data that is which is your crown jewel. They get to the data and look at the data, and Gen AI tools are now being used to summarize the data so that the attack can be planned on those data elements, right? So those are the challenges that we are looking at. The other challenge is going to be on the compliance side, right? So there are new compliances that has been introduced, GDPR, be it LP, PD, LGBT, for Brazilian compliance. That dictates how you have to store your data from a compliance standpoint, and how to gather it, how to store it, and how to destroy it is all defined in that compliance. In the meantime, if data is being used to train your models, then it becomes a risk to inadvertently releasing the data to your Gen AI, and then making sure that that is protected is the key that we have to make it. And you know there are areas where we have seen that explanation and auditability of those decisions taken by Gen AI is being questioned. For example, if you are looking at you know a claims system, right? Or a fraud analysis system. How do you explain what decision has been made by the Gen AI is right? So those are the challenges that we are bringing back. And then, the auditability. How do you explain the decisions taken by the Gen AI is appropriate? How every time the same kind of problems are treated, how it is auditable, and we are getting the right messaging out of it is a question that that is required to be explained to the auditors. And we also have the technology challenges, which is lack of observability tools, looking at the GenAI programs that you have deployed. Say, for example, your SIM tools or your EDR tools, which you have deployed to protect the organization's data. Are they looking at those prompts that has been asked to the LLM programs that has been deployed, and how is the output coming out of the LLM programs? How are they, making the data processing, and then whether the data is being exfiltrated out through those LLMs is another area where we have to concentrate. That's where we need to look at the modern day tools within which can augment or monitor the data logging from LLMs is to be analyzed. Prompt injections are another area where we wanted to concentrate, because that is now being abused by the attackers to extract data that has been trained where you have trained your LLMs on. Those data can be very critical for your organization, but it can be extracted out by the users if they use the right inappropriate prompts within them, right? And then the hallucination risk in the security automation. Say, for example, if you're going to integrate GenAI into your SOC and to help your security analyst, so the decisions taken by the security tools or the LLMs to support your security analyst can be, hallucination risk can be there. So we have to look at what is the controls that we can put, whether we can have human in the loop kind of a defense controls that can be put in place so that it will help your control mechanisms to effectively protect the challenge. And in an organizational world, challenges, if you look at it, you have the explosion of shadow AI. We have seen a lot of business lines consume the Gen AI LLMs, but your security teams are not aware of it. That can be a common practice within an organization. How do you protect it? How do you monitor your networks using tools within your already deployed is a critical function that you have to look at. That is a critical challenge all organizations are trying to mitigate from, right? And insider threat, right? So we have seen users, where the organizations have deployed LLMs, use prompts including their personal PII data or the customer's personal data into their LLMs to ask a question. So that becomes a challenge. Inadvertently, they are releasing the PII data to the outside world. That is a problem that we are seeing in the world, and we have to see how we can put monitors on the prompts. Prompt monitoring has to be implemented. So that gives me a segue to move to the next topic on that. How AI-powered deepfakes attacks are prevalent, and how the practical steps which can be help us protect the deepfakes. Deepfakes, definitely you all have heard how the Gen AIs are powering every individual with a smartphone to use get low cost tools which can develop deepfake artifacts for the media, like photographs or even voice prompts of CEOs can be generated very easily. So how that can be prevented? What is your threat vector on those has to be understood. So if you look at the threat vectors, so the fraudulent financial transactions can be one of the area where the banks are trying to prevent that, right? And then the disinformation on the brands are very, very important, the aspect that you have to look at. And the enhanced social engineering attacks that can be prevalent in that has to be also looked at very effectively. How do you prevent yourself? We basically look at the five stages or five recommendations that we do. You have to look at the practical steps that involves determining the vulnerabilities and resiliency within that processes. So organizations has to look at their processes widely. what we are looking at. For example, if your organization is an insurance company which is processing image online claims for your home or an auto insurance, right? You need to look at how that process is can be vulnerable to deepfakes. Okay, if somebody can upload some image which has been curated through GenAI, and then that process can be a problem for for that particular process. How that can be mitigated? Is there a have you tested that scenarios within your organizations and put in the additional controls that is required? That's what we need to think through. All right, and we have to look at the adoption of protection and preventive technologies which can be looked at. For example, if you are doing a remote worker interview, right? How can that be looked at from a liveliness check, right? Is that there are technology now that is available? How is that can be adopted when you are in your hiring processes to check the remote worker, right? So those things has to be looked at, and also look at the enforce the workforce awareness training. That is very, very critical. That human is the weakest link every aspect, and we know that the deep fakes are very tough for the individuals to crack it, right, or identify those attacks. So how do we train them on scenario based, and train all the stakeholders? It is not only the critical function, critical people. It is also has to be the operational teams that can be trained, right? Say for example, I was doing a banking transaction, which I was logging in using my voice prompts, but I had the the support person who was processing my request wanted me to authenticate furthermore. That is an MFA that she wanted to do it. She did it using the the bank's own application. That is where the technology is moving. That is one additional check the support personnel can use, or you should provide to the support personnel, so that they can be able to confidently support your customers, right, and avoid false or fall prey for this deepfake attacks, right? And nations are implementing a lot of new regulations uh, that is that is to be followed, and you have to implement and integrate with those regulations, so that you are up to speed on those regulations. And then the final one, you have to have a good, governance layer to be more prevalent in the managing the risk that is aware, right? So, so moving to the next topic, how do we adapt to the next gen tools for the AI driven threats, right? So we have seen why it is critical. It is critical because we are trying to mitigate uh, tomorrow's threat with the yesterday's tools, right? So it is very important for us to understand the Gen AI is being weaponized, is being used to weaponize on us. So how do we mitigate those risks with the old tools? It is not possible. So we should definitely adapt to the uh, AI augmented threat detection and response. So you should make sure that how is your SOC team is enabled to understand, or your SIM tools are looking at and monitoring those LLMs that is there, or the logs that is there to monitor their login activities. How those SIM tools are the assistants that you have created using LLMs to assist the analyst are being enabled them uh, to provide the intel that they can be using to mitigate the risk, or monitor the identify the right positive threats and take corrective actions. So that is what is critical. And then the prompt injections and LLMs abuse is one of the another item that we have to look at for. The prompt injections is where the users will be providing inappropriate prompts, so that they will be able to get out the critical sensitive data and circulate it outside and exfiltrate it. The other major item that I need, we all need to focus on is the data loss prevention. That is the area where we have to have GenAI aware tools that needs to be deployed in that area. Why? Because we are not monitoring all the prompts. The outputs are going to be very, have data intense. We have to monitor what is being prompted and what is the output that is coming along. So that will help you to put out a generative AI aware DLP that will help in DLP, data loss prevention. Moving to the next one. So rethinking AI privacy in the age of LLMs, right? Uh, we know that the privacy threats are real in the Gen AI side. Okay, cannot always uh, predict what the AI has learned and what information it remembers and how it has to be, how it has generated those information, we are not aware. AI LLMs are a black box for all of us, and what is the source of the training data, we are not aware. So those are the critical items that we need to consider when we are developing a privacy program. And we suggest, we use the 6 steps or 6 layer steps that we can use, in the preventing privacy risk, right? Baking privacy into AI lifecycle is one of the critical ones. You have to look at privacy by design concepts in your, in your software development lifecycle, and make sure that those areas of how long you want to use the data retention policy, how you wanted to understand the data that has been used for training, what is the source of it. All those information has to be looked at very seriously during the design phase itself and the development phase itself, so that it will be helpful for you know, coming up with a good process. The next one is demand the data lineage and provenance of for the training. That is the source of the data which you are using has to be looked at very clearly, so that you are not training the data, training the LLM with the wrong data, right? The other one is use case based risk modeling. So you need to look at what are all the use cases that being used within that LLM program, and what are the privacy risks that is going to be there, and use threat modeling in that area, in that is relevant for that particular use case, to do the threat modeling on, right? So the other thing is forcing granular prompt and output controls. So we should use prompts monitoring and output filtering diligently, and detect the required PII injection that is going to happen, right? And also we should look at implementation of continuous privacy monitoring and testing that needs to happen along with the programs. And also we have to introduce the governance of feedback loops on RAG, right? So those are the critical 6 steps that we will employ in enabling the rethinking the AI in the age of privacy. This is a high-level view that we wanted to, this is a high-level framework that we engage when we, engage in a LLM or a generative AI program, manage security and privacy risk in a generative AI program. Basically, you should look at all the critical frameworks that is need to be used in a generative AI program, like your generative AI security policy, or your threat modeling framework, or your generative AI data security framework. At the end of the day, you're going to protect the right side, right? Uh, if you look at it, these are the risky items, few risk items that we are looking at, right? And we also have to look at all the key data pillars, the data protection by design, secure model access, and governance policy, audit logging and monitoring, and how do you train who is going to use that data. So all those is very critical functions that we employ during our any managing the security and privacy risk for generative AI. So this leads me to the what offerings TCS can bring to the fray when you are managing your generative AI program. The TCI's AI security suite is for securing AI adoption. We have an advisory service which basically does an assessment on your security, privacy, maturity assessment that we can deliver, and also look at the AI security strategy and plan development, and also look at the controls that we need to look at establish in your security program, right? And from a professional services angle, you have to look at design for the AI apps and solutions that we need to deliver. Also look at from a managed services standpoint, what is the observability that you can create, observability and security monitoring that you have to create over the LLMs that you're going to adapt to. Those are the very critical functions that we will look at for. We also have developed based on our recent work on all these LLMs that with our clients, we also have developed key accelerators as well as enablers that we have, including the TCS Secure AI framework, also AI threat modelers, and also we have developed along with our partners, we have developed GenAI protection as well as GenAI in the security posture management tool with our partners like Wiz. This leads me to the security offerings that we have developed in terms of securing secured assessment using the blue tick framework that has the benchmark for from various customers that we use, how we can benchmark your journey towards it. And also we have developed our framework for red teaming your LLMs or your Gen AI programs. And we have developed security posture management and AI security programs along with Wiz and SysDic partners. We have also, looked at some of our partners in the threat detection space and then response phase, like partners like Hidden Layer and others. We developed a lot of utilities using them for, bringing in the threat AI threat detection as well as response. All right. So, so far we have seen how we can secure your Gen AI, how CISOs can also use, or your security teams also can use generative AI is what this slide is going to talk about. We are doing multiple use cases, be it in identity and access management, or be it in security operations, or your governance, risk, and compliance. How we can utilize generative AI for those programs is what we are currently working on with several of our customers. Be it your security architecture review with use of generative AI, and or you are developing use cases around security operations or your SIM solutions or your operation solutions is what we are leading up to, right? And we have also looked at IAM as one of the critical function where we can use generative AI. That's where we think that your role management comes into play. How you can identify risky roles that will be able that are very critical for you to manage effectively. How those things, those use cases LLMs can support is where we are developing our solutions around. And from a GRC space, how the governance and compliance can be simplified for you, how it can analyze and assess your current posture, and what is the gap that is need to be addressed with the newest compliance requirements, be it your LGBT or your GDPR. Those compliances require the comparative analysis, which the generative AI can give you very quickly, assessing your learning your existing processes and what is the gap that it needs to address, right? So those are the things that we are developing, and then the analyzing the documents and simplifying your correlations in the security operations is where another area where we are, looking to or developing our solutions. In fact, we have reduced considerable amount of time the security operations teams or your security analysts are doing on identifying a malicious IP or a malicious link. How we can go up till to the 6 layers down to identify that, and how can we protect your zero-day vulnerabilities effectively with the help of GenAI generated fixes. That's an area where we are actively pursuing projects within our clientele, be it banking and insurance type. Just to conclude, AI technology advances in the threat in cybersecurity becomes more sophisticated and challenging for the organizations to handle. And it is basically the organizations must adapt to the resilient cybersecurity practices, effectively protecting themselves against the evolving digital threats that is happening right now. And navigating this complexities in the cybersecurity requires continuous learning and adaptation of new and intelligent threats. So that completes my presentation. I really thank you guys for listening to me. Thank you.